Hello, 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 everyone. I'm going to give you guys a second to jump in before we get started. Need just a few minutes for everybody to start checking in. No, there's a lag time. Go ahead and come in. Hey, I see you guys checking in. Why don't you let me know in the comments? Couple things. Where you checking in from? Let me know, put hashtag live or hashtag replay so we will know when you saw it. But let us know where you're checking in from in the comments. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Come on in. We are broadcasting across Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube today. I'm bringing you a live resume critique. So I want to give you time to get on in here. I see you guys kind of popping in. Again, let me know in the comments where you are checking in from. And I want you to hashtag live or hashtag replay to let me know when you are watching this live stream. Again, this is for a live resume critique. I'm going to answer a lot of your questions. Want to get in. Cool, cool, cool. I see some comments. Hey, Nicole, checking in from California. Awesome, awesome. And we got Suzanne coming in from Birmingham. And I see Pam from Daytona. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let me know. Put in the chat box whether or not you are hashtag live or hashtag replay for the people so they can see when they see your comments popping up. They're not like, what are they talking about? I just got here. What are you talking about? So they'll know whether or not you're live or replay. But thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I'm going to be watching the comments, but I want you guys to interact with me today. I have a special guest. We're going to do a live resume critique. This will be a real person. We will go over the resume. I'm going to teach you all about reviewing a job posting and understanding how to make sure that this information is reflected in your resume. I know there's a lot of confusion around why do I have to update my resume every time? And am I changing everything on my resume each time I apply to positions? So I'm answering all of your questions in the chat as well. So come on in, make yourself comfortable. I see somebody checking in have Afua who's checking in from Philly. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I will be at Michigan in the house. All right, all right. So I'm checking in from Birmingham too. So I'm going to put my stuff in the comments. All right, so I'm checking in from Birmingham. We got some more people coming on in. All right, awesome, awesome. So again, the point of me meeting with you live today is to have a live resume critique. I want to shed some light on how you should be reviewing job postings against your resume to understand what you need to be updating so that your resume is not only targeted to the industry of your choice, but it is also tailored towards the position that you're interested in. So targeting and tailoring are two different things. Targeting is the type of industry that you want. So you would target your resume for healthcare. You would target it for IT, for media, for communications, for marketing, for sales, for project management, for those types of things. Those will be your job targets. But when you are tailoring your resume, you are doing keyword optimization. You're also sharing experiences that align with the specific job posting. So once you start with a targeted resume, so you have a strong resume foundation, it is not necessary for you to rewrite your resume for every position that you're applying to, as long as your targeting is on point. So I want you to see this in the real world, because it's easy for me as a recruiter and as a resume writer to understand how this information is interpreted by hiring teams and how you should be reading these job postings. But you as an individual with no HR experience, with no recruiting experience, but with a lot of experience job searching, right? You can learn how to keyword optimize and how to tailor your resume to specific postings once you understand what the postings mean and what they're actually looking for. So that way you can kind of determine, what do I need to put in my resume? What do I need to leave off? What do I need to show as transferable? So again, if you're just checking in, we are doing a live resume critique today. And I want you to put in the comments where you are checking in from. And I want you to hashtag live or hashtag replay so that I can know when you're watching this. So we've got a few people here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, again, this is a live resume critique. So I'm going to bring on our special guest. His name is Joey. He is targeting positions that he's been applying for positions, not really having a whole lot of success. He's getting some hits here and there, but I am going to teach him some strategies and give him a full-on critique on his resume so he'll know what changes that he can make to better his chances of securing interviews and also getting those higher paying job offers. So, all right, we've got somebody checking in from Kansas City. I'm so glad you can make it, Vicki. I'm so glad that you're here. All right, so let's jump in. So some of you, most of you probably know me either from Facebook or Instagram, and you're just getting to know, or from LinkedIn, or you're just getting to know me on YouTube. But I am Ashley Watkins Thomas, or Ashley Thomas. I'm a job search coach with Right Step Resumes. I've been writing resumes for about 10 years or so, and I have about 20 years of experience with recruiting. And so what my job is as a job search coach and also a certified resume strategist with Right Step Resumes is that I help promotion-ready professionals who are either at the mid-career on into the senior level type positions. I help them escape their unfulfilling careers so that they build profitable brands, meaning that whatever position it is that they are after, that all of their information, their resumes, their cover letters, their LinkedIn profiles, and also their in-person pitches match those careers so that their branding and stuff is on point so that they land six-figure and multi-six-figure roles at Fortune 500 brands or just top-tier brands across the globe. All right. So what we're going to do today, so here's what you can expect. I want you guys talking to me in the chat. Okay. I want you guys interacting. So I don't want to talk at you. I want to have a true conversation. So if you have questions, feel free to drop your questions in the chat and I will get to them throughout the presentation. I want you to see some resume samples of real clients that I've worked with. So you'll see some before and afters. And then I'm also going to show you Joey's resume as it, and we're going to compare it to an actual job posting. And I'm going to give him some real live advice so that he can go back, take all of the advice, all of the strategies, the tools, the tips, and refine his resume so that it's better targeted for the types of positions that he wants and that it's tailored for specific job opportunities. And then I also have an offer for you. It would not be me if I didn't have something that I wanted to share with you so that you too can either participate in a critique session or have me write your resume from scratch. And then I'll give you some information on how you can connect with me. Okay. And so I love this comment. Thank you so much, Vicki. Vicki said my advice is always on point and it's on fire. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Definitely follow me across all social media. I'm pretty much there. If you want to find me on Facebook, if you find me on LinkedIn, Ashley Watkins Thomas. And then I am new to YouTube, but I'm there as Right Step Resumes. So I will give you some more information about that. But, if you want to let me know in the chat where you're checking in from, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, that would be awesome. But yes, I want this session to be very interactive. So feel free to ask your questions. And again, I'm going to bring on the special guest and we're going to talk about the resume. So one's in the chat if you're ready to get started. If everybody's good on housekeeping and all of that, I want you interacting with each other too in the chat, but I want you to be respectful to everybody. If I see you in here acting up, I'm going to get you out. Get you up out of here. So let's all be adults. Let's have a lot of fun today. Again, let's interact. So if we are ready. Okay, cool. Vicki says she's checking in from LinkedIn. I think the majority of the people here may either be LinkedIn or Facebook because I'm new to YouTube. So go over and subscribe to @Right Step Resumes on YouTube. Help me out. Help me build my following over there. All right. So let's bring Joey on. Welcome, Joey. We're glad to have you here. Hey, Daryl, too. We got the chat is all filling up and everything. Joey, you ready for this? We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the position that you want to apply to and also give a look at your resume. And I want to let people know that this is not to pick on Joey. Joey's done a really good job with his resume, but there are things that I'm going to teach him to do that's going to help him up level. So you ready, Joey? You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thanks, Ashley. I'm excited.
Yes.
And for everyone else out there.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you here. So on this screen, if you guys want to put in full screen, that'll help you see it. But this wasn't designed for you to read everything word for word. I'm kind of going to talk you through this. So if you see on the left side, I have Joey's one-page resume. And so this resume is for, if you can see at the top, we're kind of just going to go to the top of the resume and work our way through. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions in between. Okay, Joey? So,
Yes.
all right. So first and foremost, I can see when I open this resume that this is a resume for a creative director, a design manager, graphic designer. You're letting me know right away the types of positions that you're interested in. So, and that's a good thing, because sometimes I'll get resumes and I'm like, I can't really tell what this person's brand is. I don't know what types of positions they're applying to. So, and then on the right side, I have a position that you've provided that you're interested in. This is where you want to get your resume updated so that you can apply to roles, either this one or something similar, right?
Yes.
All right,
Exactly.
good deal. So if you can see, I have highlighted some information on the right side where we have the job posting. And what I've done is gone ahead and highlighted the keywords. Keywords are those words that help the hiring teams, whether it's recruiters, whether it's the hiring manager, whether it's a coordinator, whoever is reviewing the resumes. It is letting this individual, this is what sets the tone for the type of position or the type of person that we're looking for. So this is what the role will actually do. And so as a recruiter, I would have an intake call with my hiring manager. And so the hiring manager will let me know some of the things that this person will have experience with, let me know the things that they should have knowledge of, and then the types of functions that they would carry out each day, right? So those become keywords because I'm looking for those words in the candidate's resume to let me know that they do in fact have the experience that we're looking for, right? So there's no magical thing, when it comes to these keywords. It's just that you have to identify what those functions are, and they're not just in the qualification sections, because that's what people do. They skip right to qualifications and say, boom, that's where I'm going to get my keywords from, and they ignore everything else in the job posting. So you do have to pay attention to every piece of the job posting. That's why it's crucial that you read. Y'all don't like to
Yeah.
read. I know this. Y'all don't like to read stuff, because you're applying for so many jobs, and how can you have time to read every single thing? Well, you need to, because that is how you know what is required of you. You can use the job posting to update your resume, and you can also use that job posting to help you interview, because if the job duties are there, you can then guesstimate what types of questions will be asked of you. And you also can decide what scenarios at work can I share that align with this job posting. So as we go through your resume, Joey, I'm going to ask you some questions to sort of help me understand if, for one, you do have experience in the things that the posting is asking for, but then also to see whether or not you have documented the success that aligns with what the job posting is looking for. So let's start.
Cool.
Very top of the resume, and we're going to work our way down. So if you see, Joey has a one-page resume. So you have listed in the contact information section, that's the most important piece of your resume. I've got to know who I'm calling. I've got to know who I'm talking to. So you have your name. That's pretty big. Of course, for privacy reasons, we have redacted certain information, but it is here. You've got your full name here. You also have your personal web address, which is awesome. For a creative professional, you definitely want to have information that leads me to your work samples, that leads me to different projects that you've worked on. So I can see something that's a bit of an extension from the resume. I'll also see your LinkedIn profile that is there, which is awesome. And just for the sake of this session, we're going to assume that that is also targeted towards these types of jobs as well. And then we have a phone number. We have a location. If you notice, Joey has not listed his full address on the resume. He has listed his city and his state. Now, sometimes you can list your city, state, and zip, but at the bare minimum, you need to have at least the city and the state. And that is because if I'm recruiting for a position that is in New York, I want to see that I have a candidate who is in New York if this position is requiring on-site or hybrid work situation. So I want to make sure that this individual can at least make it on site. So if I saw something from Alabama, then I'm looking like, that's going to be a bit of a commute to get all the way, to Brooklyn, because this position was posted in for New York, right? So if you put your full address on there, you are opening yourself up to, crazy things like stalking. You're opening yourself up
Yeah.
to, your identity and all of that. So you've done a really good job with how you've placed your contact information here. The only thing that I would say is where you have creative director, design manager, and graphic designer under your name, in an
Mhm.
applicant tracking system, because it is parsing that information and sort of placing it where it should go within the system. Creative director, design manager, and graphic designer, that resume title may become part of your contact information. So I would say if you
Mm.
move that down under the line before you start your summary section, that would help to remove that from and have that clear distinction between your contact information and then your resume content. So that's a
Got
little
it.
change, a little, little thing that you can do when you're going, make your updates so that we can finalize your resume and everything. But I would just move that down. And so the
Yeah, I
next,
wouldn't have I wouldn't have thought of that because
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
I
it
don't
does.
really
It
know
comes.
how they're
Yep, it
parsed.
comes
So
across a
yeah.
little crazy sometimes. Like if you put things in there that are aside from your name, websites, email addresses, the applicant tracking system sometimes doesn't know what to do with it, especially if someone is
Hmm.
using maybe an older ATS or an older version of the ATS, and they haven't gone and gotten the updated features. The ATS is only as smart as you program it to be, right? So, because
Right.
it is a system, it does not have a mind of its own. So, if the applicant tracking system, if you're getting those rejections right away, chances are it is not the applicant tracking system that is making that decision. You may have answered something incorrectly, or you may not meet a minimum qualification, meaning that if the position is advertised for Brooklyn and they are making that where you have to be in the New York area, or they may set a parameter as far as how far away you can actually be from that location, that will knock you out. So typically it's a knockout question. Do you have a bachelor's degree in graphic design? If your answer is no, that could be a knockout question if that manager is kind of hard up and dead set on the fact that you have to have that specific degree. So understand that when you get those rejections right away, the ATS is not the enemy. The ATS is not doing that. The ATS is not going to do anything that I don't tell it to do. Okay. So it does not have a mind of its own, at least not yet.
Right.
At least not yet. All right. So let's see how you described yourself when it comes to your summary statement. So you have, it looks like about maybe 2 lines here where you've described yourself as a multidisciplinary design leader with 10 years of experience in small and large companies, and that you're committed to build, manage, and art direct high quality teams. So you've got the leadership aspect in there. And then you're providing creativity, craft excellence, innovative concepts, strategic thinking, and design management to every project. And then you have a listing of the core competencies or areas of expertise. So let's look at the job posting and let's see. So this
Sure.
title is a senior art director. So the title of the position is always a keyword. Okay. So you want the title that you're targeting in the resume somewhere, because if I'm reviewing this resume, I am looking for a similar title to let me know that you've at least held a position that could make you remotely qualified. Right. So in that first glance, when we talk about the 6 to 7 seconds that it takes for them to, a recruiter or a hiring manager to determine whether or not you're qualified, that is what we mean. We're kind of scanning the document really quickly in that 6 to 7 seconds to say, okay, this is somebody that we need to be looking for. Because if I'm looking at this resume and then I see titles like human resources, I'm seeing a title for account manager and all this stuff that's nowhere relevant, to this position, and see somebody who's an electrical engineer, that's going to make me pause for a second and say, yeah, I don't think this person it's qualified because their jobs aren't relevant. So if you can make adjustments to your title to match the title that you're applying to, especially when you have those ambiguous titles. Now, you're not going to go changing your titles just for the hell of it. It's to make it clear what your job function was. So if you were a graphic designer, if you were a creative director, and really what you did was art director, then you may include art director in your title somewhere. so that the person reading the resume can understand more clear. I remember I've been a recruiter for, for 20 years, just recently, stopped corporate recruiting, but we had these fancy kind of made up titles and they meant recruiter. That's basically what it was. And this was before like talent acquisition and all of that really became a thing, right? So with those inflated, kind of titles, and they weren't used consistently throughout the industry, I would always list my title as recruiter because that's what I would have been called at any other company. So I wasn't an employment interviewer. I wasn't a, talent, acquisition or, or some type of, special title. A recruiter, a recruiter, a recruiter, because that's what the industry would understand. So I'm glancing initially in that 6 to 7 seconds to see if they are relevant titles. And since this position is going to work with, graphic design, they're going to work with, helping with advertising campaigns, marketing campaigns, all of that. I'm looking for titles that would have had those functions. And so I see creative director, I see head of design, I see art director, I see graphic designer. So I know that these are relevant job titles. So you meet the job title portion of it.
Great.
Yeah. Yes. So so those you're doing pretty well. And I do want to make it clear that the 6 to 7 seconds is not the entire time that a recruiter or hiring manager would spend reviewing your information. That is the initial glance. I probably will look at somebody's resume 15 to 20 times before I get them on the phone because I'm looking for different things each time, because I'm looking for experience and titles. Maybe one time I'm checking the location, another time I'm verifying the accomplishments, in another situation. And I'm preparing for the interview. I'm preparing for what questions I'm going to ask this person. So when you see the 6 to 7 seconds, it doesn't mean that that's the only time I'm going to spend reviewing your information. So a lot of times we get these statistics out there and they don't account for reality. And then people just kind of take it and run with it. So it does not mean that 6 to 7 seconds is the only time frame that people are going to use to review your information. It's just that is the initial glance. It doesn't take me longer than that to figure out whether or not you're qualified, but it may take me, quadruple that time to find some other information. And then I'm looking again, and then I'm sharing it with my hiring manager. I may be talking about your resume with my peers. I may even be talking about the resume with you because I have to ask you some additional questions before I decide whether or not you're a candidate for an actual interview. So again, job title is very, very important when you are going to keyword optimize your resume. So I see that in your summary section, you have also called out the number of years of experience you have. 10 years is a pretty safe number when it comes to, you calling out how much experience you have. But for individuals who may be concerned about ageism, and things like that, you don't have to call out how much experience you have, because I can look at your dates and kind of calculate that myself. Because sometimes if the position is only asking for 2 to 3 years of experience, and then you tell me you have 10, then you
Right.
can't really complain about being overqualified, right? Because you're giving me
Yeah,
more
and
than the one I
and
need.
Ashley,
Mhm.
I've heard other people tell me a little bit about like the number, and if some people tell me like, oh, reduce that to 8 so you don't look like you're too seniored, and some people tell me to erase the plus because that could be a sign that like, oh, you have 40 years, but you don't want anyone to know that you're,
Right.
oh, well, I'm not,
Yeah.
50 plus whatever yet. But there could be ageism there, right? So I'm curious, like, do you have any recommendations there too with like how with the
Yeah.
number and like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think of it, and this is the advice that I give to my clients. And understand that if you've heard different, advice, it does not make the original advice that you heard wrong. It doesn't make it wrong, because there are hundreds of ways to accomplish the same goal. There's no hard, fast rule in job searching. You can do things multiple ways to accomplish the same goal. So if I have a client that may be a little bit younger and say they had a lot of internships or something like that, and the requirement is the 8 years. And so I may want them to call out the fact that they do have the 8 years of experience, just because it shows that they match the job posting. Now, for my clients who have more experience and they may be concerned about ageism, because your concern about ageism should be, the protected age is 40, but really that ageism starts around 35 to 37. Okay. So
Got
just
it.
because you hadn't reached 40 yet, it doesn't mean that you don't have anything to
Mhm.
worry about. You actually do, because it starts a little bit early. And then it also is based on the perception of the individual who is reviewing your information. I started
Right.
recruiting when I was 22 years old. So again, a 40-year-old to me at 22 was ancient versus me being in my almost mid 40s now. That girl, what you talking about? That's not old,
Yeah,
so don't
exactly.
do me. But there are things that you may be doing unconsciously that are drawing attention to that. So I like to, unless I'm trying to prove that this person has the necessary experience, I don't mention numbers at all now. I used to, but I've kind of gotten away from that. And so what I may do is say a history of success or a history of accomplishments in doing the thing, instead of saying 10 years of experience. Because again, that, people automatically, it's just human nature, where we may be looking at, okay, well, 10 years back, they graduated this, and when you start listing all these dates and all this kind of stuff, people are going to try to guesstimate. It's just human nature. They're going to try to guesstimate how old you are. It shouldn't matter, at the end of the day, because I don't care if you're 140. If you can get this job done, come on, let's interview. Let me get you in place. If you're qualified, if you have the accomplishments, if you have the success, but everybody does not think like that. So you have to assume that there may be something that you're listing that could be, that it could hurt you in some way. So, you have to ask, does this better position me for this opportunity? So if the job was asking for, say, 5 to 7 years of experience, and you want to call out the fact that you have the 7 or the 5, or that you meet the minimum, that's great. Again, I don't think 10 is that big of a concern for me, especially when the posting is asking for 8+.
Right.
So
Okay.
there, so 8+ to me, that's 9, that's 10, that, or whatever.
Mhm.
But if you were to say 20 years of experience, right, then automatically because if I say I have 20 years of experience, people are like, girl, what? But yes, I have 20 years of experience. But you see how that sounds like it makes me so much older than what I am. Um,
Right.
so you can position it a different way, and then you can just say that you've had unparalleled success in helping small and large companies do a thing. Remember that you said that you have experience working with these small and large companies, but why does that matter that you have the experience with small and large? Tell me what you've done to help them. So you may even say that you have a history of success, building, managing, and art directing high quality teams at small and large companies, right? Or that you have experience managing those large campaigns, that, try to put some success in it, because you want the person reading the resume to visualize you adding this type of value to that particular company. Right. So you've done
Yes.
a good job with the call outs and the things that you're good at, but take it to the next level. Have your campaigns help the company make money, save money. Have you helped them to increase their brand presence? Have you gotten more website traffic for them? Even if you can assign numbers to that, say that you have a track record or history or accomplishments that you're able to help somebody improve um their brand presence, or that you can their market reach, or something like that, and you can assign a number to
Yeah.
it where you help them drive their traffic 50% more, you help them get more memberships, whatever the case it is, you help them drive sales a certain dollar amount. If you can quantify there, try to quantify. So that is how you take your information in your summary section from good to great. So your summary section has to answer who you are, what you do, and how you add value. So I think here you've answered the who you are, because
Yes.
you're a design leader. That's who you are. But then what do? You build, manage, and art direct high quality teams. Okay. And then where do you add the value? Right. So you've listed some things here where you've got craft excellence, you've got strategic thinking, you've got design management, but where's the value truly in that? The employer is looking
Mhm.
for, what's in it for me? So that question has to be answered as well there. And that becomes your value proposition, or your unique value proposition, or your UVP. So always remember the who you are, what you do, and then how you add the value. That lets you know whether or not your summary statement is going to be strong enough for the resume. Because remember, that's the first thing I'm going to see. So how is that information that you're providing in those 1 to 2, maybe even 3 sentences? What are you going to tell me that's going to make me for sure want to continue to read your resume? So
Yeah.
think of some things. What are you most good at? You start to think about the things like, what are people telling me that I'm the go-to person for? What am I the SME or SME for? What are give me one. What are you thinking?
I think one of them is, I mean, I have built many brands from the ground up. I
Yes.
talk about that a lot within the resume,
Okay.
and uh, I've done it a lot in different positions, especially at Meta. So, going from 0 to 1 with there's nothing, and then we end with something, and usually the brand itself grows and remains, on the web, on social, and can
Mhm.
stand the test of time. So,
Yeah.
that's one.
Yeah. And see, I love that. And so and that could be beneficial, especially if you were to apply to a role somewhere like a startup, right? Because
Mhm.
if you're telling me that you built something from the ground up, then I need you to do that for me because I'm starting out. We're trying to build out this team. And it doesn't mean, when I say startup, it doesn't have to be a startup company. It could be a startup department, because where there is growth, they're adding on to the team. They may be adding on to different segments of their team. And so, in the job posting typically will tell you that this is a brand new team or a newly organized team. Give you little clues like that. And so that's a way
Mhm.
for you to incorporate your ground up information,
Nice.
your ground up
Yeah.
success. So yeah, that would be great to add, especially since you've already included it throughout your resume. You would want to, that summary statement is going to introduce the reader of your resume to what success is to come throughout the document. So if you're telling me that you drive traffic, you make money, you increase sales, you help increase the brand presence, I'm looking for that evidence throughout your document as well. So that would be a
Right.
great thing to call attention to very early on.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
I never thought about, the concept of bringing the numbers that are throughout the resume, some of them at least, or the highlights up to the top section. I just
Mm-hmm.
figured there's already enough content here, but, remixing it so that some of that's pulled up and put up top makes sense, because in
Yes.
the first 6 seconds, I don't want someone to have to find it all the way down in the 3rd position or something,
Yeah.
because I do have a lot of numbers throughout, but none of them are up there at all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And so I think
or no,
another.
like, none of the, it's not even numbers. There's no, like you said, no value prop, I suppose. So, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I think also too, if you were to take your resume and fold it in half, and then you open it up, so let's get old school and print resumes out again, right? And so if you take your resume and you fold it in half and then you open it, above the fold is where your most important information is, it should be. And so we have someone so Vicky in the comments, who works in change management, has listed a career highlights section at the top of her resume. And that's very beneficial, especially if you have that older experience that provides value as well. You can bring that information up to the forefront and just give a summary of it. And that prevents you from having to even list it on your resume, actually, because you're focusing on the success that you've had. And then you're also, again, bringing it to the top so that they don't have to get to the end of your resume before they find that information out. So that could be another way of positioning. But I think overall, if you were to expand your resume from the 1 page to a 2 page document, it would give you, for one, more breathing room within your document, but it will also give you an opportunity to call attention to things that you're going to mention throughout the resume, but you get them to that information much faster.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
On that point, the 2-page thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big, controversy. I think people are on the cusp of thinking, oh, no one's going to read my second page, but also, oh, look, you just crammed so much into 1 page, and now it looks like I don't want to read it because there's too much here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, curious, Ashley, what your experience is there too, because I
Yeah.
clearly went the 1-page direction with this one.
Right. So resume length is less important than your resume content. So I
Got
don't
it.
have a set length that I have a resume. And actually, I focus on the length of the resume when I'm formatting and, and doing the positioning piece. So sometimes, especially when you have more than 10 years of experience, you're more than likely going to have a 2-page resume, or you need to have a 2-page resume. And so how I decide whether or not I feel like somebody should have a longer resume or whether or not they should have a shorter resume is by, for one, their content. So are they really giving me the most relevant information that I need to make a decision on their candidacy, right? So do I have enough information to decide qualified or not? Right. And so then when you start to remove things from your resume and you say, well, nope, I need to take that out because, my resume is longer than 1 page. I'm taking this off, taking this off. If you find that you're deleting information that could support your candidacy, that confirms that you probably need a longer resume. Then
Got it.
you look at, what type of breathing room do I have? Like, am I taking this person on a clear, smooth journey throughout my career history while providing enough information about my candidacies for them to make a decision, to show that I'm qualified, right? But then, or am I squeezing stuff down so much that they need a magnifying glass to see it, right? Then you also have to look at, for someone who, because I've had interns that have had resumes that are 2 pages, but that's because they've had several internships and they had several success stories that were relevant to share within that particular job experience. And then there's also people who do, like, say, project management, who have several different projects that are worth calling out within that one job listing. So they may have a different, especially a longer resume because they have a project section. Same could be true for an entry level person. You may not have a whole lot of experience, but you may have projects. Executives may have had several different segments where they especially if they were turnaround experts, so they were going into companies that were failing and then helping them succeed. Well, there are a lot of stories that are worth telling within those separate positions, so it may need to be longer. So typically the resumes that I write are anywhere between 1 to 3 pages. Okay. Now, if it has to be longer than that, there may be an addendum that I'll create, especially if somebody has a ton of publications, maybe they have a lot of patents, and things like that. We may have an addendum, but that's not considered truly a piece of the resume. So 1 to 3 years 1 to 3 pages for a resume is going to be pretty standard. But I would say, do not force your resume to do anything. As long as your experience, so say you have 20 to 30 years of experience. It is not necessary for you to outline all of that experience. 10 years pretty much can get you for any type of position that you need, even senior leadership, because most of those positions typically will ask for 7 to 10 years of experience. So if you're trying to figure out, how far do I need to go back? Well, how far is the job posting asking you to go back? So if they're saying 8+ years of experience, as they are here, then you want to make sure that your resume shows 8 years of worth of experience, because you have to be qualified for the role. Now, that doesn't mean that if you see 3 years that you only put 3. No, 10 is okay. Anywhere from 10 to 15 years, generally speaking. Now, no resume advice that I ever give is absolute, and no resume advice that I give is ever one size fits all. It's going to be very specific to that individual and what it is that they're trying to call attention to. But the average person is going to go back about 10 to 15 years, and it's not necessary to show more experience than that, especially if what they have already within that time frame is relevant. Right. So in your case, I feel like as we go through some of these keywords, we're going to see that there are some areas where you probably need to expand. Okay. So let's go into
Got it.
again. All right. And so now, let's look at this position. Says that you're going to do, you're going to have the marketing campaigns. So let's look at your resume and see where we've listed the word campaign, because that's going to, so keywords actually come in. You may have to get a little close to it or whatever to be able to see. And actually, let's see if I can change the view so we can see this a little bit better. Is that better for everyone?
It's better for me.
Okay. All right. So if it's better for you, then it should be better for pretty much for everyone. So, all right, so good deal. So we've got campaigns. So that's one of the words that I've highlighted. And because that, so this, the reason why I highlighted one of a kind campaigns, which one of a kind, definitely, you don't have to list that as part of the keyword. The main thing here is campaigns. So, and the reason why I know that this is a key word is because it says you will be creating campaigns. So right away,
Hmm.
I'm looking for somebody who can show me evidence that they have created campaigns. And then it also takes it a step further and says that they do that for global brands. So if you've worked for a company who has supported clients, maybe on a global aspect, I am looking for you to show me that you have created these types of campaigns, more than likely from the ground up. But I want to see that you've done it for more, for different, for, a variety of companies. And so I see that in your second bullet in the second job entry, you listed that something that you did impacted users worldwide, and then you also worked with global partners. So I know you have global experience, right? So I know right away that you have experience working on a global level. But I want to see campaigns, and I don't see that. I see you've mentioned them as projects. So in those instances, this is where your transferable skills will come in, because you may have to say something differently than you normally would say in your current role, because they may call them projects in your current company, but outside of your company,
Hmm.
that is considered, is the project is actually a campaign, you can swap that word out. And now, instead of you saying that you have worked with these global brands on these projects, you've worked with them on these campaigns.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I was
that's
actually surprised that I don't say campaign other than at the
mhm.
top.
Yep.
I say it like, in the like you said, in the intros of things, but not
Hmm.
necessarily like I worked on this campaign. Um,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, if they're
Yeah.
saying I need campaigns, definitely need to update that.
Yep, yep. So that would be something that you want to incorporate as well, and then showing evidence that you have worked cross-functionally, because basically saying that you've worked with copywriters, designers, solution managers, and producers, where we've highlighted here, right? You want to show that you've worked with those types of individuals as well. And so again, we look at the resume. Where have you worked with copywriters, designers, solution managers, and producers? It may not be all of them, but you may have worked with them. And so if you're lumping it together as a team, it may be helpful for you to expand and say who was on.
Mm, got it. So, like in some of the descriptions, say like collaborated with producers, editors,
Mhm.
etc., on a
Exactly.
large photography campaign or something like that. So just get
Exactly.
specific
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And so what we're looking for here, and so I see that so what you've done is, so you have just a one liner for each of your jobs explaining what you did. But I think if you were to expand that to maybe 2 to 3 lines, explaining what your job scope was, because I want to be able to understand, like, what were your responsibilities? What were you brought on board to do? What were you hired to do? What were you challenged with? What did you support your VP in doing, or what did you support the executives in your team? What did you support them in doing? Because if you're a director, I'm going to assume that that's the level that you report it to. This position, let's see, in here, did they say? I don't think it doesn't call out in this particular position who you would actually report to, but a lot of the job
Hmm.
will say reports to the VP, or reports to um, the creative, or maybe chief marketing officer, or whatever, where this it says that the position supports the premium content production team, but it doesn't say an actual job title. But
Yeah.
anywhere they call out titles, if you can mirror that in your resume, you can do that. And see, by expanding to the 2-page resume, it does give you room to include information like this and others that we'll discuss throughout the resume. Another thing, so in your most recent position, which is your current as a freelance creative director, man,
Hmm.
this is an opportunity for you to really drive home those keywords, because who's going to check you about what you put as a freelancer?
Sure.
Right. So
Not
if
many
there's
people.
So if there's an opportunity, so you do have that you worked on a campaign there, but you didn't go into detail about the campaign. And if you're freelancing, you want me to give credit for that freelance opportunity, prove to me why that opportunity is relevant. So tell me what you did with the campaigns. Tell me about the success you helped your clients achieve. Because remember, anything that you did as far as the campaign, even though you may not have done something specifically that to bring sales in, the campaign that you created, it influenced that success, that whether it's sales, whether it is the brand presence, whether it's their market reach, so track the success of your clients, because you would be doing that at a job if you worked with internal stakeholders, or even with clients that your company actually supported. You would need to show that you have experience helping them, whether it's business growth, market growth, whether it's financial, whether it's the strategic planning piece of it. You want to talk about those things more. So I do feel like there's room for you to expand here in your most recent job to talk about some of those ideas that you said that you brought to life. Because you said bring ideas to life through consulting and brand identity, digital, print, video content, whatever. So you've got a lot of keywords there, right? Because this job is asking for, if you can see in the highlights, is asking that you lead it, that you lead projects, that you own those client relationships. So I want to see you talk about instances where you've done that. So again, expanding that resume beyond the one page would help you be able to include that information. And then the next thing is that it's talking about that you're developing designs and that you're working with the look and feel, of that. So anywhere that so another way to say look and feel is what the UX, the user experience. You can talk about the actual, look and feel or whatever. And so this is too why it's important for you to have included your portfolio, which you did, because now I want to see, what did you create? Whether it was a presentation, where did you do the storytelling? Talk to me about the projects and stuff that you managed, but you've given me one line. And you said that you worked with 15 plus clients. So I want to see, what success can I see? What track record? What types of things are you able to, to do? What value are you able to bring to these clients that you worked with before?
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely gonna fill that out with a few more key examples, because just saying what did I say?
That you brought
Bring
ideas
stuff
to
to
life.
life.
Uh-huh.
Where's the ideas?
Yeah.
So
And what does that
people
mean?
definitely will ask that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So you've got it for sure. And then another keyword was data and insights. So I don't see where you've done any, any type of market research here, and what you've used that market research, to actually do. I see that you mentioned it. You said that you conceptualize. This is under the education modernization team at the senior art director. So this would be position number 4 if you're counting down. Your second bullet, you said, or your first bullet, I'm sorry, it says conceptualize full-scale products by instituting the PRDs, market research, user personas, and user testing. So I know that you've done some work to, kind of research or even assess or get feedback about the look and feel. But I don't know that for sure, because I'm making an assumption here, and I can't assume anything. I have to only go by what is provided to me, and that is what is on your resume. Because if it's not on your resume, it does not exist,
Sure.
right?
So
So
like,
you
I
mentioned
could
it.
make that more specific,
Yes.
maybe?
Yep. So you can
Okay.
say that you were able to help a company do the thing, right? So you got the
Mhm.
result that you've achieved from it, but you did that through market research, through assessing the look and feel, because you want to also incorporate in the fact that you listen to your customers, and that, so you take the voice of the customer into consideration. I know voice of customer is something that is very big in that, whether it's the campaign, the marketing, and that type of space, that's very important. So you want to be able to draw attention to that. And then also expanding to say across what channels, because they do mention a variety of different media channels. And so that's not something that you've necessarily called attention to here, is the media channels. It's not been said. And then the media channels themselves has not necessarily been called out.
Got it. Yeah. A lot of my stuff didn't. Yeah, I mean, obviously, media can be. you can think of it in different ways. The biggest thing in media is in the one, two, three, I think fourth one down where I said Esquire, L, GQ, Sports Illustrated, but that's because I had key examples there. Other
Right.
ones I don't have too many.
Right.
But
And so what you
yeah.
can say to get that in there though is you can say media channels including and then list them out.
Okay, got it. So
Yep.
just calling out media channels looks better than just listing
Yeah.
magazines, for instance. Okay.
Right. Because you have to assume, right? Even though I don't like to assume anything, but you make the assumption that the person that's reading your resume doesn't know squat. They don't know
Okay.
anything. So you've got to iron out everything for them. Like, for instance, if they just said, okay, I'm going to let my sixth grader review this and tell me whether or not this person is qualified, would the sixth grader know that Esquire and all of those are media channels? Probably not. So you would have to tell them media channels, including, and then give examples of those media channels.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
that way
Yeah.
you're hitting.
Speaking on that, Ashley, like
Mhm.
you mentioned, cross-functional, like mentioning certain terms that sometimes, or just, trying to show others that I have done cross-functional experience, including
Mhm.
specific people there. But like the word cross-functional, for instance, like at in my former position, we would use like XFN, and I think it's kind of an industry standard. So in my resume, I put XFN. But
Yes.
do I have to also assume, like you just said, that people reading the resume maybe they don't know squat to the point where they don't know what XFN means, and I write it out whenever it comes to certain terms? It doesn't look better if I use businessy terms because they sound businessy and smart, I
You
suppose.
use whatever term is used in the posting. So if the posting
Okay,
says XFN, which means cross-functional, if that says
right.
that, then because you have to give credit to the acronym and then also the actual word.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
And so if you use acronyms, you need to at least spell it out one time. And that
Okay.
is for
Okay.
the user that may not, or the reader that may not necessarily understand it. But overall, I have no doubt at all that you have this experience. It's just limiting yourself to the one-page resume. There's so much left to be desired. You're
Yeah.
leaving,
Totally.
pertinent information out. So I would want you to, you can even use Chat GPT to identify those keywords, or Claude or whatever AI you're going to use. And you
Hmm.
just copy and paste that job description, ask it to identify the top 40 keywords in the posting so that you know where you need to focus your experience. But then you also want to make sure that you're reading those keywords and, saying like, is that worth, are they really going to be looking for somebody with attention to detail? Do I need to say that in my resume? Probably not, because I'm going to see your attention to detail when I look at your site and see your
Hmm.
samples. So there are some things, so if you noticed in the second paragraph at the very end of the job posting, they've said attention to detail. But that is not something that I'm going to, if I'm searching for a creative director, I'm not searching attention to detail. I'm searching an actual competency. I'm searching something that you would either have experience with or knowledge of.
Got it. Okay.
And attention to detail is too rudimentary. That would cover anybody and everybody, but I'm not looking for anybody and everybody. I'm looking for an art director. So I'm going to search terms that will help get me closer. Think of it as the SEO of your resume. I'm looking for those words that help get me closer to the type of person that I want to hire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of feedback around the concept of getting more specific and in a lot of the points themselves instead of
Mhm.
being generic or general where I can be, and showing that value through some sort of real world situation that I put in with each bullet or with each thing, instead of just saying, I
Yes.
have attention to detail. Say, how do you have attention to detail, and show an example,
Right. Or what
basically.
that attention to detail actually, did for you. Right. So,
Mm,
so if you were able to achieve a certain thing just because of the attention to detail, then that's what we're looking, what we're looking for. That, you show me the success and then you tell me the how. So what did you achieve? How did you achieve it? And if attention to detail happened, then yeah, then,
mhm.
then use it for that. But I don't want you loading up your resume with personality stuff.
Got it.
right?
Okay.
It helps, but your personality will come across in your writing. So that's why I said you definitely want to have your LinkedIn profile updated as well, because that's where you can infuse more of your personality. Resumes themselves are just traditionally robotic, right? There's only so much that you can do to show your personality outside of your design. Because when I look at your resume and then I also look at your site, everything matches. The brand is on there. But I only have the document. So you want to make sure that that everything is easy to read. It comes together really clearly and concisely, and that they're not walking away with any doubt in their mind whether or not Joey is, qualified for the role. So you know it in your head. You've got to get it on paper, because the person that's reading the resume doesn't know you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, doesn't know you at all. So let's move on just a little bit, and we'll cover just a couple more sponsorships. So that was one of the keywords that was called out, where it says that you're creating content that is connected to sponsorships. So if you've done that, especially if it was for a major brand, say I had a client once that worked for getting sponsorships for the NFL. So and then they did it for other sports teams as well. So we listed out those different sponsorships and how they were able to secure those sponsors. So we talked about the money that was involved in the sponsorship, the publicity that was involved in that, and also the relationship piece of it. So, that may be something that you want to add if you have that exposure. Another thing, let's get down to the bottom of your resume where you're talking about your education. So you've got your education, technical skills, and also some of your certifications here, I think. You've got those listed kind of side by side. So you have to assume that the applicant tracking system is going to read like a human, left to right across the page. So if that happens, you've got your technical skills, your certifications, and your education that will end up on the same line.
Yeah.
It reads left to right. It doesn't know to stop in those places to pick up that information. But if you were emailing this to somebody, I can, since you've bolded it and put it, in there, then,
Sure.
I can see that those are separate things. But a system doesn't know that, because the applicant tracking system does not see color. The applicant tracking system does not see bold. It does not see shading. It does not see even graphics. It removes that information. So there, the word will be there, but it's not bolded. Everything is plain text, black and white. That's how it parses. It does not parse a bold. So you have to assume that some of those things could end up on the same line. That's why I prefer not to necessarily use columns when it comes to the resume. So if you're finding that you're uploading your resume, and then when it does, one of the systems that actually does parse and doesn't make you type everything back over, I hate that. That's the quickest way to make me not apply to your job.
Yes.
Fill out what's already there. But if the parsing is not done correctly, you're finding that you're having to change and make updates to your application. That means something about your layout is not feasible for the system. And you may be feasible for one system and not feasible for the next, because all applicant tracking systems are not created equally. There are thousands of ATS. So that's why I don't like when people give blanket advice, because all advice doesn't apply to everything, because all systems are different and they can be programmed differently. Even if the two companies use the same ATS, they may not have accessed all of the features. They may not be using all of the features. I know I've worked for a company that used the bare bones features when it came to the ATS, but I had colleagues who worked in that same system that could do much more with their system because it was programmed that way. So, just be aware of how your information is coming across to the person that is actually reading your document. So really quickly, the position calls out that you need to have experience in art direction. You covered that because you've got titles as art director. It also asks for experience working with advertising agencies. So I am looking for either the company name to be an advertising agency, or for you to call out that you've worked with advertising agencies. And I don't know that piece is there, but I know you did it.
I
Yeah.
did. And yeah, I actually have realized that recently, that a lot of people like to see, and they put in their job postings like,
Mm-hmm.
partner with agencies, yada yada. And I thought that was just second nature for me, but apparently they really
Yeah.
want to know that you did that. So
Mhm.
I gotta figure out ways to incorporate that for sure.
Yep, they wanna know, and then, like, if you worked for a company that the name is not so well known and say that company is actually an advertising agency, it may be helpful for you to say that you were promoted to lead design, research, and partnership expansion, for 45 cross-functional or, educational partnership team or whatever at this advertising agency, right? So that
Mhm.
way you let them know, or you can just hyperlink to the actual company's website, because I do have to then go Google and see the title of the name of the company, kind of Google it to see what type of company it is. Because even though I'm in Alabama, I've recruited for positions in New York, in California, in places where I haven't lived, places where I'm not located. So I may not be familiar with all of the brands or the more local companies, because a lot of them don't exist in Alabama because, for various reasons. But it may be something outside of my knowledge base. So you want to, again, assume that the person reading the resume doesn't know. But again, incorporating storytelling into your LinkedIn profile definitely would help, because this position under their preferred qualifications, number 4, telling stories is what it's asking for.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right.
So we're looking for somebody who has experience telling stories, whether it's for brands, whether it's for helping people with their marketing concepts and bringing that stuff to life. So it talks a lot about project management. So again, you've mentioned projects throughout, so you're not lacking there. And you've also listed you did not list project management as one of your competencies. And so I could say that there is room for you to put that project management keyword in there as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm
Mhm,
very good at project management. Sometimes I
mhm.
don't list it because I don't want to
It
be
seems
a project
understood.
manager, but or
Yeah.
or just I just project management's tough to, and you could be pigeonholed into doing that.
Yep.
But that being said, like if it's in the job description, definitely should pull
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah, right, of course. And then there's some areas where it talks about the actual, this is why I said it's important for you to look at not only at the qualifications for the position, but you also want to look at the key job responsibilities, because that's where a lot of the keywords and requirements are kind of hidden in there as well. Because if you look at maybe the 5th bullet down under the job responsibilities, it talks about you having an in-depth understanding of Sketch, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Keynote. And I don't see those on your resume. So there may be some, there are some things. So I see Adobe, there, but it doesn't specifically call out Photoshop or Illustrator or even InDesign. And then there's Keynote that's there as well. And then Sketch. So I do see that you have the Adobe suite, but they're looking for specific things within that suite.
Yeah, that goes back to the I made it one page, so I had to
Yep.
save space. So
Mhm.
to just right off the bat move into the second page, I have more room to breathe and to add in more of those
Yes.
specifics, because definitely like Photoshop, all that I can do, it's in the Adobe suite. But if it's not listed there, maybe the ATS will never pick it up, or people might
Yeah.
not know Adobe suite
Mhm.
equals this or that, right? So
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
guess I made some assumptions there,
Mhm.
and just generalized too much.
Yeah, and basically that's what that's the biggest thing that I saw with your resume, is that not that you have a bad resume, and it's not that you are not you're not qualified for the position. Is the fact that you have made assumptions based on the skills that you have, because you're working it every day, right? And you assume that if you're applying to a position that's similar to what you've done, that they understand it as well. But you got to think
Sure,
that recruiter, I'm not an art director. I don't work with Photoshop. I don't work with those different, those different systems. It's not a part of my particular job. So while I may have knowledge of the position because I've had my intake call with the hiring manager, I don't live in that space. That's not my zone of genius. So you have to make sure that your resume has enough information so that it can pass 3 stages of the application process, which is the system, which is the applicant tracking system, the first touch, which is the, recruiter, coordinator, whoever that is, and then the hiring manager. So the hiring manager is going to know more in detail about the day to day, about what this, they can ask the trick questions. They can do all of that. Well, as a recruiter, I basically have the conversation that I've had with my manager, plus I have the job posting. That's what I'm going by. It's not from lived experiences all the time. So,
Got it.
obviously,
Yeah.
like I said, overall, not a bad resume, but these are areas where you can expand. And so, I'm really interested in how you're going to take this information and build upon it to expand your resume to, to the 2 pages. That is my recommendation for you. It may not be the
Okay.
recommendation for everyone, but I'm recommending for you, especially because you're, going up in leadership. You want to hit on all of those
Hmm.
points. I'm ready to see what you do with this resume to turn it into a keyword rich 2 page resume that shows who Joey is, what value he offers, and how he can move the next company forward. Because you would definitely be a spot on match for this position if you expand it, which you expand it through. Expand it and give more information, and you explain some things that I know you actually have the experience with. So back to the drawing board. I want you
Okay.
to update that, send it back to me. And this is how the process works when I have a resume critique with clients. We sit down together, we review the job post, and we talk about what is missing. We talk about ways to expand. And if someone doesn't have experience in something, I give them suggestions on how they can get that experience or that exposure, or a way to position that information so that it does show that they're at least interested and eager to learn, and that they have that capacity to learn the new thing. And then they send their information back to me. It's a recorded session, so they're able to access the recording to review information, the more of the tips, because I know some people are writing tips, and then some people just want to listen and be engaged. So you do have that recording to go back to, and then from there they send their information back to me, and then I do a little bit of cleanup, some light editing, and they are ready to go. So thank you so much, Joey. This is a great experience. I feel like I learned a lot about your experience. I hope you learned a lot today and you're able to take this information back and take your resume from good to great. Do you have any final questions before I let you go?
No final questions, but thank you
Yeah.
too. And I hope everybody else on the call also got something out of this as well, because I
Yes.
did for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And judging by the comments, I see a lot of people did, and they learned a lot from you. And I would be, like I said, I'm interested in seeing what you create so that we can show them what you were able to create from the call that we had today, so that they can see. See, some people kind of rated you a little bit in the comments. We're not going to pay attention to that. We're not expecting perfection today. We're not giving numbers. We're not going to do any of that today. But I do
Yeah.
want to be able to show what you create from this, because I'm sure it will be great. So thank you so much, Joey. If you guys want to stick around, I am going to show you some samples of some resumes. So when I'm telling you this information, when it comes to what I like to see when it comes to resumes, I'm going to show you here. So, all right. So this is a before of my client resumes. If you have questions, go ahead and keep them coming in the chat. I will handle them in just a second. I just did a quick check. I didn't see any questions, so we're going to move right along. So this is the before of a resume. This client had a 1 page resume as well, and you see the format is very similar to that of what we just had with Joey. But I helped them expand this resume so that it better explained what they did, and they were able to land their new role in 5 weeks. So I kept their same color scheme. I also kept the same job target, which was a senior administrative support professional. But we took this resume and just expanded it. So you see there is much more information here that explains how this person adds value to the types of positions they were applying to, rather than having such a short document that everything was kind of crammed in and then leaving very pertinent information out. So now Jennifer has a brand. Jennifer is very clear on the things that she brings to the table as far as competencies. And then there is a clear explanation of the types of jobs that she held, as well as each bullet point is keyword optimized, and it is also there to show the accomplishments. So if you're struggling to figure out how to build your accomplishments, just use the PAR format. So that's the problem, the action, and the result. Something very similar to what you would do for your interview to come up with your scenario. And then you flip it to wrap, and that is how you list it on the resume as the result, and then how you did it, which is the action in the problem, right? So you achieved a certain result by doing a thing to solve this type of problem. That is how you list it on the resume. So it's PAR when you're thinking of the interview scenario, and it is WRAP when you are listing it on your resume. So moving along. This is a client whom I've been working with over a period of years. And we first started with the resume, which they were a licensed claims adjuster, but they wanted to move up in the rankings. They wanted to shift over into leadership and more high level positions within that same insurance space. So we took the information and expanded upon it, because this is sort of bare bones information. It got the job done. But remember, most people that come to me, they're wanting to elevate, they're wanting to get a higher paying position. And so this client did just that, boosted the salary by 70% by the time we finished working together. So you can see we did a lot of expansion when it came to showing leadership within those positions, because the first resume did not show leadership. It did not show success. So we expanded the information so that it can provide more details about the value that this client offered. And so they were, and right now, this is an older resume for this client. This was the initial, one of the initial updates, but they are now in a executive level role, doing this some similar work that they did in claims. But yeah, they've able to branch into staff leadership. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm always happy when my clients make more money. All right. And so here's a client who was working in more of the in the banking or financial space, doing some work with information governance, data management, but you wouldn't be able to tell from the resume because they use their official titles. And so those titles were business analyst and project consultant. Well, while that was true, that is not what their title was called at other financial institutions. So we had to take those titles and make some adjustments, and also focus on those core competencies that were important for the target role, so that we can show that alignment. And so this client was able to, with this resume, this is the updated resume, they were able to get a job offer, not just an interview, but an offer in 17 days from the time that we completed our critique session. So we wanted to draw attention to the records information experience, the data governance experience, and that information retention. So we went through and thought of different scenarios. This person also had a gap because they had recently been laid off. It wasn't too much of a concern because they were working almost not even a month after they were actually laid off. But we wanted to call attention to the fact that I wasn't fired. My company actually downsized. They did some restructuring, and this is why my position was eliminated. So anytime you can add context to what may have happened as the reason why you're no longer at that company, you can do that, because that could be the very thing that's stopping you from getting interviews. So if you're finding that you're getting hung up, or people are asking you that same question over and over and over again, you can address that information in a very, quick little 1 or 2 lines, just to explain what happened during that time, and then moving on. Okay. So this started with the 2-page resume that really didn't give a whole lot of meat, kept the 2-page resume that further expanded their experience, their expertise, and their success that was relevant. And again, landing the job within 17 days. Here's a sample from someone who I worked with, a client that I worked with that they were in fundraising. That's where their background was. They did a lot of events, which were in fundraising is very salesy. If you're experienced with that in that nonprofit space, then there's a lot of sales involved in that. So this is an example of a sales sample, a resume that I helped this person transition from the nonprofit space into more sales, and also channel sales and partnerships. So you can see we use color. We also use graphics. There's a lot of stuff out there saying, oh, you're not supposed to use graphics and text box. Yes, you can use that information. But what the true tip is that the applicant tracking system may delete that information. So it may delete the text box. It doesn't delete the whole resume. It doesn't give them an automatic rejection. That's not what it does. Is that the applicant tracking system does not understand graphics. It understands text. So if you are including a graphic, which I did here, which expands on the successes over time, and that's what I was trying to show, a visual of what this person had achieved over time, it's just going to delete it. But that information is listed elsewhere in the resume. So whoever's reading the resume will still see it, whether that graphic is there or not. This information here, the career highlights section, that is not a text box. It's a shape. I took the center out of it, so it has the trim around, but it sits behind the text. So all the applicant tracking system is going to see is the text. Okay. If it's going to delete it at all. I've worked in several ATS where how you upload your resume is how I saw it, when it came to me. So, yeah. So I use color. Rarely do I use a resume that doesn't have color. Typically, if I do a black and white resume, it's by client request. I work very, I partner with my clients to help them decide what is the best way to position their information. You don't have to use color. I've never hired somebody because their resume was a certain color, right? And that's typically not going to be part of the decision, but it's whether or not the color helps to draw attention to the correct things. And here it does. This resume was actually included in a very popular resume book called Modernize Your Resume. So if you want a book that helps you with that, you definitely can purchase that resume to give you some ideas of what to include as far as, the structure and the design of your resume. The next one, this is a human resources sample. I won an award for this one. So this is when people say, oh, you're supposed to use professional colors. Purple isn't professional. BS. You can use pretty much whatever color you want to use when it comes to your resume, but you want to be strategic with that color. This resume was for an award. I've used purple in resumes where somebody may be applying to a company that their brand colors may be purple. It could be pink. It could be green, or whatever the case. But we want to make sure that we are including that information. I think we paused here for just a second. Let me see. All right, give me just a second here. It is storming in Alabama, so maybe having some difficulties when it comes to internet connection. So just give me 1 second here. And I may have to pop off and come back on to get this to work correctly. I think we may be back. I'm not sure. If you guys can let me know in the comments whether or not you can still hear. You may not be able to see. All right. Do I still have you guys here? Like I said, we're kind of in and out because it is raining and storming here. But I'm going to get you back up and going. All right. We were on this resume. All right. Sorry about that. We are back. We are back. Okay. So I think I was talking about the brand colors. So typically with resumes, I do try to incorporate some of the brand color because you have to consider your audience when you're thinking about what colors and things to use for your resume. So you want to think about what is it that I want the reader of the resume to interpret when they see the color of my resume, the design of my resume. So know your audience before you start playing around with colors. But yes, there are no rules. There are standards, but there are not rules when it comes to resumes that you have to just absolutely live by. All right. The next resume sample is for it's a project management sample. This is one that was also included in a book. As you can see, there's I just used the standard blue, which I use oftentimes in resumes. It is also a 2-page resume. I incorporated this individual's experience into their document that would help them really show. All right, good, Nicole. I'm glad you can see me again. But I want to make sure that you guys understand that when it comes to your resume and how you position things, that you are listing information that shows, again, who you are, what you do, and how you add value. So that can, if you want to incorporate some of your personality into the document, that is fine. You can use color, you can use icons, you can use even graphics, but you want to make sure that it's not detracting from the information or distracting from the information that you want the reader of the resume to see when they're determining whether or not you're a fit for the role. So here we wanted to draw attention to project management, to leadership, and to success that they've had with projects. So we talked about whether or not they handled something from concept through completion, whether or not they saved money. Did they make money? Did they save time on the project? I know a big thing with project management is coming in under budget. So we want to make sure on this, and I'll expand so that you can see this just by itself. But yes, you can see that I highlighted certain things with color to draw attention to job titles. And I also wanted to incorporate with this person's resume, I wanted to incorporate the fact that they were actually a Marine Corps veteran. So I wanted to really show the parallel between what the work that they did within the military and how it would translate into a corporate setting. So I only focused on that information that was relevant to project management. So if you can see, we focused on the area of coverage, the type of success that they had, the partnerships that they built. We focused on compliance. We also focused on, you can see numbers throughout this information. But yeah, a very clean and concise document. And then we also focused on those certifications. So, again, listing those certifications way up at the top in the resume title, and then listing it again in the certifications section. Right, just to make sure that it wasn't missed. And then here are some testimonials from clients that I've worked with. They are speaking to my coaching style, which is naturally inspiring, and that they feel empowered after working with me. And that's exactly what I want people to feel: empowered to do the thing that they want to do, empowered to go out and get those higher paying opportunities with the skills that they already have, because that's what I do best. I help people position the experience that they already have so that they can go out and get those positions without feeling like they have to talk about their shortcomings, or that they have to be embarrassed because they don't have a certain degree or a certain type of experience. We, pull all of the transferable skills and also work to build a strategy around the offer or the value that they have to bring. Another said that, that I use my recruiting experience and knowledge to help clients. I absolutely do. And that I also help with LinkedIn, with interview preparation, salary negotiations, and much more. So if you're interested in resume writing services, there's a couple ways that you can work with me to up level your resume. You can do a critique session, which is very similar to what we did here today. Well, I will go through in a recorded Zoom session and tell you everything that you need to change or adjust with your resume and how you can make those improvements, give you an opportunity to step away, you get the recording, you use the tips and tools that I provide to you within that session, create that resume, get it back to me, and then I do some light editing, could be putting a little bit of design, putting my little stank on it, and then you're ready to apply for positions within about 3 days. And then there's done for you services. So the critique session is $349, and then you have the done for you services, which is $1,249, but that is a targeted resume that you get from scratch. You complete a questionnaire, and then I take that information and build your resume from the ground up, and that is completed within 10 business days. Now, I do offer payment plans because I understand that different financial situations are what they are, but you can either pay in full or you can split it into 4 payments, and so you can either do PayPal credit, pay later, or afterpay. All right. So if you would like to work with me on your resume, you can DM me the word resume for the link to get started. All right. Let's check and see, do we have any questions in the chat? Do we have any other questions? Any questions? Any questions? All right. I'll give a few seconds just in case someone has some questions. Okay, well, if that is it, here's how you can get in touch with me. If you want to work with me, you can send me an email, you can DM me, wherever you're watching me right now, you can send me a message. Again, if you're checking in, I want you to put the hashtag live or replay to let me know where you saw this. I want you to, you can, like I said, you can send me an email, you can send me a DM. I do respond to any and all messages as long as you don't feel like spam or a bot or you're not being disrespectful. I will respond to you. And then you can follow me and also interact with me, connect with me on LinkedIn at Ashley J. Watkins, or you can just key in Ashley Watkins Thomas. You can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn more than any other social platform. And you can also visit me online at writestepresumes.com. If you join my email list, you do get a freebie of 100 ways to maximize your job search. You can go to writestepresumes.com. It is one of the first things that pops up if you want to get on my email list. That way you're the first to know when I do events like this and when I introduce new programs, new products, and discounts as well on my digital products. So I do have a question here. Thank you, Afua. You said you heard that only jobs up to 10 to 15 years should be on the resume. What if you have been with the same company for 20 years? Yes. So that happens a lot. Well, that's a great question. If you are at a company for 20 years or more, focus on your progression within that company. So you may have to go back a little. Remember, 10 to 15 years is a suggestion. It's not the only thing, right? So it doesn't mean that you definitely have to just keep it to that and it's strict and there's no deviating from that. You can list the experience. So say, for instance, you were in a different position when you started and then you got promoted to a certain type of position, you got promoted to something else. List those as separate positions. And then that way you can just list and say, you can put a one-liner there and, say that earlier positions include, and you can list out those positions, and then you can put the number of years you had those positions. So say, maybe you went back right up to the point of maybe 7 years or 6 years or whatever. If you look at, let me show you real quick here. If you see, this resume. So if you look at I created an early career section that lists those positions, but it only lists a number of years that they were there. So it doesn't call attention to the fact that, oh, it was back in the 19 something, right? Because that's a dead giveaway that that position is going to be older because of 19, right? So you would want to, try to abbreviate that somewhere, but you would, just split it up so you can show the progression, because some people say that it's not a good thing to have been at a company for for that long, right? But in that instance, you may have been getting promoted, you may have been supporting different business units. So if you separate those out, you're able to capitalize on the experience that is relevant, but you don't have to focus on those older roles because they may not be as relevant anymore. So if you need any specific advice to your situation, then you should book an appointment with me, and we can talk about your specific situation and how's the best way to to position that information. Nicole, you have a question as well. What are some resume tips that you're doing a pivot that you should use for your current role as your job title, or use the job title you are seeking? So I'm assuming that you're talking about the resume title. So if you are, so say for instance, you're in accounting and you want to go into HR. If accounting is something that you did, kind of way back when, or, or whatever, maybe your title is accounting, but you have those strong HR functions, then you can use a slash title. So you may be accounting director, slash, HR advisor, or, or something along those lines, right? And then if you would want it, so say for instance, the very top of your resume. So if you're looking at this one for Jacqueline's title is senior HR advisor, and then it lists all these different HR titles that she's interested in. But so you can list either the title of the position you're applying to, or a title that describes what you have experience with. So the title for my resume is always senior recruiter, or it may be senior talent acquisition professional, whatever resonates with the type of position that I'm applying to at the time. But yeah, just kind of play around with it. If you're uncomfortable listing your job title as something that is not your official title, then just put career target. So you can say, targeting positions, including, and you can put those titles there, or career target : and then those position titles, especially if you don't know if you've never held those titles before. So hopefully that answered your question, Nicole. You also asked whether or not I do interview coaching. I absolutely do. So you can either book individual sessions with me for interview coaching. So I work a lot with confidence building. I work a lot with people who get nervous with interviews, and they're they're unsure of how they should formulate their responses so that they come across as they're knowledgeable for the positions. I also help with things like explaining what your salary is, talking about those difficult or challenging situations that you've had. Maybe you were laid off, maybe you were even terminated. Maybe you had to take a step back, or whatever. I help you explain those things. And then you also get a mock interview. So I do have a program. It is called Interview Ignite. If you want to go to my website at rightstepresumes.com, you can book an appointment with me. We can talk about your interview coaching needs. But I do have programs that are specific for interview coaching, and then we can do individual sessions. So usually I use those power sessions for someone who may not be able to invest in full-on coaching, but they need just a session because they've got an interview on Friday and it's Monday, and they want to jump on my calendar for some interview support. Either way, it's always included with resources that will help you along the way. But working in my programs, I do have more accountability, more resources, and more one-on-one support when it comes to interview coaching. So if you're interested, jump on my calendar. Let's talk about it. Any other questions? You're welcome, Afua. You're welcome. Any other questions? And again, I'm going to flip back to my contact information. If you want to, to work with me, you can send me a DM. You can also hit me up on my website or via my email address, or on any social media platform. You can reach out to me. So wherever you see me, that's where you can send me a message. I check messages all the time, and I will respond. All right. If there are no more questions, I thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be doing more of these critique sessions and also resume reviews. So I will let you guys know, as always, if you want to join my email list, so you'll be the first to know when I do sessions like this again, you can do so at rightstepresumes.com. But it has been a pleasure teaching you today. I hope you found this very inspiring. I hope you learned something. If you have any suggestions about what you want me to talk about, what you want me to cover, just send me a DM. I'm very open to hearing about what you want to hear from me. So again, thank you so much for spending your lunch or your midday break with me, and we will do this again. Thank you. Happy job hunting.